In 2020.
He's a official. It's absolutely, how stupid can you be? That's where he gets his fake facts and figures from, but that's just the.
Look which video is laughing me. Look, no, it's actually quite nice. Yes, that's right. I've been searching. What's there? I've been searching. I don't know why, because laughing me or not. Okay.
There's no cookies on it.
Right, let's start. Okay, going. Today we're going to be spending the whole day mitzvah. Normally, if a person does an avera by mistake, certain kinds of averas, for example, eating chelev, you can imagine eating noise leftovers or being mechal on Shabbos, what happens? Again, normally, no one does. No, it means chatos again. The person eats chelev by mistake. Maybe a person eats noisa, you're a kohen. If you eat noisa by mistake, what do? Not only allow, it's cause you have to bring another chatos. Can you imagine if you eat leftover meat by mistake, you're chayav chatos. If you mechal Shabbos by mistake, let's say you carry by mistake chatos. What's normally a mistake? There are two main mistakes. One is you don't know it's Shabbos. You don't know if it's Shabbos, that's one. Or you know that it's Shabbos, but you don't know it's forbidden. We started a topic which we're going to discuss now great and the whole of today. It's called Torah Mitzvah, where according to some shittas, in some cases, if what you're busy doing is trying to do a mitzvah, even if, let's say, you don't really succeed in doing a mitzvah, since you're trying to do a mitzvah, you do not need to bring a chatos. That is the din of Torah mitzvah. We're going to see there's at least 3 different shittas when we say Torah mitzvah, and certain exclusions when we don't say Torah mitzvah. This is the topic. So the Mishnah told us the first case was what happened was a person went on Erev Pesach, he took a korban Pesach on Erev Pesach, and he decided to shecht it as a shlomi. We're up to Ein Beis Modalef top line. Is he chayv chatos if it's Shabbos or not? Does anybody remember? First went on Erev Pesach, took a korban Pesach, and it was Shabbos, and he shechted it as a shlomi. Is he chayv chatos or not?
Shabbos, yes.
Why? Oh, it's Torah mitzvah. That is a korban Pesach.
Can't be a
No, you'd have to be a chatzos after. It means he took a korban Pesach, shechted it as a shlomi on Erev Pesach, which is Shabbos. He has to bring another chatzos. Why? Because here is not Torah mitzvah. Because the fact that you're deciding to shecht it as a shlomim is a proof that you're not thinking of doing a mitzvah. You're trying to do an aveiro. You're not doing it. Now, the question is, you have to obviously make a decision to make it into a shlom. There's more to it inside. I'm based on that top line. But my asking, they made a mistake. He thought really it was a shlom. He didn't know it was a korban Pesach. Shmas b'no akir savi akir would come out that akir and akir, which we know that's not true, or at least it's a machrikas. Ela b'oika, meaning that he knew explicitly that this is a korban Pesach. He took this sheep, knowing it's a korban Pesach, and with full knowledge, he shechts it as a shlomim. So it's chayav chatos. Why is he chayav chatos? Because you can't say I'm a Torah b'dvar mitzvah. How are you a Torah b'dvar mitzvah? You know very well that it's a korban Pesach with intention. You're shechting it as a shlomim. So therefore you have to be a chatos. Ema Sefer, the next part of the Mishnah, v'shar kol hazvachim, other kinds of korbanos. Sheshochten neshama Pesach. Let's say Erev Pesach you see a shlomim, and you shecht it for korban Pesach. If there can't be a korban Pesach, how can it not be a korban Pesach? What's the case where it can't be a korban? What? Too old, or cow, or female. Then chayiv yechayiv. If they're fitting, that means it's male or less than a year and not a sheep or goat. Then what's the din? We had a machlikas. Rabbi Lezer mechayiv chatos, Rabbi Yisroel poiter, Rabbi Lezer mechayiv chatos, Shlosh says bottom. If we're talking about when a person's oika, If a person knows fully well what he's doing, and he's intending to do the opposite of what it's supposed to be doing, that's not a turbot mitzvah. Turbot mitzvah is when the person makes a mistake. If we're talking about oike, it's not turbot mitzvah. El pshita b'toya makes a mistake. That means he sees a shlomim, doesn't know it's a shlomim, and he shechts it as a common piece. So it comes out Veisha Ba'ika V'Sefer B'Toya. The first case of the Mishnah is talking about explicitly only the case where he has intention to uproot it, and the second half of the Mishnah is talking about made a mistake. And indeed Veisha Ba'ika V'Sefer B'Toya. That means even though our Mishnah talks in similar language in all the cases, that means the first case of the Mishnah is you take a common Pesach, you shecht Hashem Shlomim, and the second case of the Mishnah is you take a Shlomim, you shecht a common Pesach. Even though the language of the Mishnah seems to be saying we're talking about exactly the same case, in reality it's not. The first case is talking about where you take a Pesach and you uproot it l'shem shlomim with intention to uproot it from its designated thing. And the second case of the Mishnah is talking about where you do a mistake and you take a shlomim and you by mistake shecht for common Pesach, which is difficult. We never like lechatchila to say that the two cases of the Mishnah is talking about the same case, but that is how we say it. Says the Gemara, she was walking with a big group of people. That he was in Usha. He said to him, listen, what's our Mishnah talking about? So he said to him, indeed, like we just explained, the first case of the Mishnah is talking about where you intend to be oika, and the second case of the Mishnah is talking about where you mistake. He repeated it for him 40 times, and it was as if it was in his pocket. That means he asked him this question 40 times. What's the Mishnah talking about? The first case of the Mishnah is about oika, the second case is by Torah. He asked him again, what is the Mishnah talking about? The first case is talking about oika, the second case is talking about Torah made a mistake. What's the Mishnah talking about? The first case of the Mishnah is talking about we uprooted intentionally. The second case of the Mishnah is why we did a mistake. What's the Mishnah talking about? 40 times. Until he knew it so well, it was in his pocket. Just say two short halves. There's a sefer called Orchos Tzadikim. Very back of Tzadikim himself writes Sha'at. He says that nowadays we're not learning like they used to in the days of Chazal. But nowadays we spend too much time doing Iyun and not enough time doing Chazal. You see again and again, he quotes this Gemara and other Gemaras, that they used to, when they would learn a new idea, instead of thinking all kinds of kashas and terutzim and nomdas, they would learn it again and again and again. And it's an important idea that sometimes we see people, they spend months and months on one or two daf, and it's a big pity because at the end of the day, the person does chazor, pick up knowledge is very, very important. Another thing they say about is like this. The Gemara says that if a person loses his wallet, how long does it take for him to find out that he's lost his wallet? Does anybody know? How long does it take to know when you've lost your wallet? Straight away. How do you know? Why does what the law say? A person touches his pocket all the time. So therefore, if I find your wallet, I can be sure you already know that you lost it. It makes enough community whether there's Yehuda or not. Right? The Gemara says that. So the Gemara says, after learning it 40 times, it was as if it was in his pocket. The Gemara says that person touches and feels his pocket every moment of the day. So therefore, the point is, the Gemara says like this, that after learning it 40 times, he didn't switch off. But rather, it was keep touching your pocket to feel what's inside there. So too, the learning that he had it in his pocket, meaning he never forgot it. He kept keeping his mind on what was in his pocket. Okay. So let's go back to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah is telling us cases where a person does it wrong on their Pesach. It starts off with talk about a case where everybody agrees it's Chayav Chatos. That is a case where the person takes a Pesach and with full intention and with a clear mind, he decides to uproot it from a Pesach to a Shlomim. Everybody agrees it's Chayav Chatos because at the end of the day, you're not trying to do a mitzvah. In the other case, where you take a Shlomim and you shech the Common Pesach, we're not talking about what you did with full intention, because in such a case, everybody agree again, you're Chayav Chatos. Rather, we're talking about you made a mistake. That means, I come to the Beis Midrash Ner Pesach, and I shech back on Pesach, and then I see another sheep which you bought. Now you bought the sheep because you were thinking tomorrow to Shamei Simcha, Shamei Chagiga, or something else. And I shechted the Common Pesach by mistake. So Rabbi Lezer says, I'm Chayav Chatos. Why am I Chayav Chatos? Because I haven't done the mitzvah Common Pesach. And I've done an Abei of Chil Shabbos, of shechting on Shabbos, so I'm Chayav Chatos. Rabbi Shua says, no, I'm a Torah b'dvar mitzvah. So even though the Mishnah sounds like we're talking about the same case, but it's not. The first case is about Oik and the second case is Torah. It says, well, this. Now, The Mishnah continues with Rabbi Lezer proving his point. Omar Rabbi Lezer. Ma'in Pesach shemuter lishmoy. Common Pesach on Erev Pesach, which is a Shabbos. You would be allowed to shecht it l'shem Pesach. If you change the name Chayav, if you change it for a Shtom Yechayav. Zvochim shenasurim lishmo. Bones which are also like a Shlomim. When you get them wrong and you didn't say Chayav. If you remember, Rabbi Lezer said the question yesterday to Rabbi Shiur, I don't understand your logic. If Common Pesach, which you're allowed to bring on Shabbos, if you do it for the wrong reason, you're not allowed to. Other Kabbalahs which you're not allowed to bring on a Pesach, if you do it for the wrong reason, it should be no good. And what did Rabbi Shiur reply to him? Anybody remember? What did Rabbi Shiur reply? What? No, that's the use for Shabbos, not this. He said that by Common Pesach, you're changing it from Common Pesach to something out of Common Pesach. You're changing it into the wrong direction. Other Kabbalahs, you're trying to change them in the right direction. You have intention to change it from a Shlomim into a Pesach. So therefore, it's much worse to be a Pesach l'shem Shlomim than a Shlomim l'shem Pesach. But Maisa, Rabbi Lezer said, my logic is very strong. If I believe that Common Pesach l'shem Shlomim is no good, Kavachim Shlomim l'shem Pesach is no good. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. If it is true that we just explained that the Reish is about Oika, the same as about Torah, Domi, they're not comparable. The Reish ba'Oika, the first case is talking about when you're Oika, the Common Pesach l'shem Shlomim, and then you have Chatos. The Sefer b'Torah, and when did Rabbi Shiur say not Chav Chatos? Only if you make a mistake, not ba'Oika. Answers the Rabbi Lezer le'shonile. Rabbi Lezer indeed holds there's no difference whatsoever between Oika and Torah. He holds whether a person does it on purpose or whether a person does it by mistake, changing what the call was meant to be. In either case, your Maisa got it wrong, and the Maisa you have chatos because you've all common incorrectly. Says well, Rabbi Shiur, the shonile, because Rabbi Shiur holds there is a difference. Lishanile, lishanile. You should answer him this. Rabbi Shiur should say to Rabbi Lezer, you're not comparing like and like, because you're talking about Common Pesach, which you shechted like Rabbi Shlomim on purpose. I'm talking about the Shlomim which you by mistake shechted the shem Common Pesach. Answer Rabbi Shiur replied to Rabbi Lezer as follows: it's not comparable. Why? Because even according to you that there's no difference, it's still no comparable. Why? Where you change the Pesach into a Shlom which is forbidden. So again, let's go briefly. In our Mishnah, we're talking about two main cases. One on Erev Pesach, which is a Shabbos, you shech the Common Pesach l'shem Shlomim, or a Shlomim l'shem Pesach. If you shech the Pesach l'gabe Shlomim, everybody agrees that what? You chayav chatos. And the Gemara says that's talking about Oika or Torah. Does anybody remember? Oika, because if it's Torah, you're not changing it because it's a normal Pesach. And the Sefer, we're arguing of Rabbi Shiur, we'll talk about only by Torah, because even by Oika, Rabbi Shiur would agree. The Gemara is first bothered that it's two cases. The Gemara says, yes, that's the only way to explain our Mishnah. Then the Gemara says, another question. The Gemara says that the proof that Rabbi Lezer, when he tries to compare the two cases to prove just like one in the Chayav Chatos, so to the other, they're not the same. So why did Rabbi Shiur not at least say that? The Gemara says Rabbi Lezer himself holds there's no difference. So Rabbi Shiur was saying, even according to you, there's no difference, but I've got another answer. And that is when you check the Pesach l'shem Shlomim, you're pushing it in the wrong direction. You took the Pesach to a Shlom which is forbidden. When you check the Shlom l'shem Pesach, you're pushing it in the right direction. Okay. Omar le Rabbi Lezer. We continue with our Mishnah. A mu'ed sibu yechichu. A mu'ed sibu is a carbon on Shabbos, like a carbon Tomid or carbon Musaf, which you're allowed if you bring it the Gabish, if you bring it by mistake. If you take a Shlomim on Shabbos because a Tomid, it's no good. Shei motor nishmon, nashech nishmon chayav. Omar le Rabbi Shiur loy. In Mamos with Sibur Shekin Yeshdem Kitzvah, there's a limited amount of a Pesach She'enu Kitzvah, that there's no Kitzvah. Meaning that a person has no limited amount, there's endless amount of Common Pesach, and that's why you always Ter B'Dvar Mitzvah. Mashiach on Shabbos, you're not Ter B'Dvar Mitzvah. So we'll finish off the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, remember, that when there's a limited amount, then Rabbi Shiur is Mechav. Again, if you shech the Shlomim on Shabbos, and you say, I'm going to shech this shtomim with intention that it's a carbon tomid. What's the din? Chayav what? Chatos. According to Rabbi Lezer. According to Rabbi Lezer, of course you chayav chatos. Rabbi Lezer never holds of Torah b'dvar mitzvah. But even according to Rabbi Shiur, you chayav chatos. Why? Why is it different from the shech the shtomim there Pesach, the Pesach that you're not chayav chatos, and here you are chayav chatos? The answer is that in Erev Pesach there's a limited amount. Since there's a limited amount, unlimited amount. So therefore, everything you're shechting is a Shem Pesach. Shechting on Shabbos is limited. Asks the Gemara from a Mishnah we had in Shabbos regarding a bris milah. If a person does bris milah of a baby, we're going to have a Shabbos baby, a Friday baby, and a Sunday baby. We talk about a Friday baby, meaning a baby that you should do bris milah on Friday. A Shabbos baby is a baby that you should do bris milah on Shabbos, and Sunday baby is a bris milah that you should be doing on Sunday. If you do bris milah of a Shabbos baby on Shabbos, you've done a wonderful mitzvah, bris milah, etc. If you do a Friday baby on Shabbos, but have you done mitzvah bris milah?
Yes.
Yes. You've done mitzvah bris milah, but because but you've done an avei of chilul Shabbos. If you do a Sunday baby on Shabbos, what's the din? You've not even carried mitzvah bris milah. Very good. Oh, says the Gemara. Yeah, it's born on Sunday. Says a Sunday baby. Says because babies, kids, so there's a limited amount. We're talking about when you got two babies, so it's limited amount. Since it's limited, l'chayra Rabbi Shua should say that what? That you always chayav chatos, even if you're termed v'amitzvah. Again, Rabbi Shua said in our mission that if you shech the shlomim on Shabbos, think it's common Tomid Yechav Chatos. We explained because why are you making such a mistake? You should be able to work out. There's 2 sheep for Tomid, 2 for Musaf. You should work it out. And it's very hard because you're so confused. You're so busy. It's there for your potter. But by 2 babies, it's not that many, so it's easy to remember what's what and what's what. So according to Rabbi Shua, what should it be? They should always be chayav chatos for making a mistake. But now, because person has 2 children. One to do it after Shabbos, one to do it on Shabbos. If you did the one of Sunday on Shabbos, he's chayav chatos. One to do on Friday, one to do on Shabbos. So shochach mole shel erev Shabbos b'Shabbos, and he did the Friday on Shabbos. Rabbi Lezer b'chayav chatos, Rabbi Yeshua poiter. So Ablezer says, Shua says you're potter. Why are you potter? How can you Shua say you're potter? In the end of the day, it's Tova Sheish Lo Kitzur. It's only 2 babies. So just like if you shech the Kohen Shlomim on Shabbos, I think it's Kohen Tomid Yechai because you should well keep track. It's not like Kohen Pesach, so too over here. Omar Abami, Hocha Mayaskinon, Kegen Shekodam O Mole Shel Erev Shabbos b'Shabbos. Dikahachte Shabbos de Toid Bei. Again, Rabbi says like this. They were talking about that what happened was like this. You did bris milah, you had 2 babies on Shabbos. One was a Friday baby. You didn't do bris milah on Friday. Why didn't you do bris milah on Friday? No, you're supposed to do it on Friday. Why didn't you do it on Friday? It was ill, or you just didn't get around to it, you didn't have time. And on Shabbos, you've got 2 babies to do bris milah. One is the Friday baby, one is the Shabbos baby. Says Rabbi, if you do the Shabbos baby first, then you have chatos on the Friday baby. Because once you've done the Shabbos baby, you've got no more mitzvahs left to do. Now you're doing the Friday baby, you have chatos because you're not termed v'amitzvah.
On the Shabbos, you did that one first.
On the Shabbos, you did that one first.
On the same day.
You did it both on Shabbos. But since you did the Shabbos baby first, you've got no mitzvahs left. But if you first do the Friday baby, then you're potter. Why are you potter? Because you're still thinking, I need to do bris milah, I need to do bris milah. And then you went to do the wrong baby first.
It's not like kids.
Mashain came back Korban Tomid. We're talking about where the Korban Tomid was already bought. The Korban Musaf was already bought. And now you're going to shecht an animal, a Korban Musaf. That doesn't make any sense. Now you can't call Korban Tomid. So according to Rabbi, to be a Torah b'dvar mitzvah, what do you have to have? According to Rabbi, to be a Torah b'dvar mitzvah,
going on.
So a mitzvah available. Very good. Till a mitzvah going on. You still have to have a potential mitzvah in front of you. Because if you've got a baby still needs to do bris milah, fine. But if you haven't got a baby to do bris milah, there's no reason to do it. Okay. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, now Mishnah is the most maker of all. What's a mayor hold? That whenever you're terbet mitzvah, you're always potter, even in a case where yesh lo kitzvah. So even on Shabbos, if you go on Shabbos, imagine the Beis Mikdash comes down today. and you go on Shabbos, you stand in Beis Hamikdash, and you take a sheep, which is a shlam, and shecht come on Tom Kunta, and you're not chayav chatos, because you're terbet v'amitzvah. Afal Gav, and now we explained that our Mishnah was talking about, because in order to explain the difference between the Bishua here and the Bishua Bismillah, we explained that the Mishnah over here is talking about what's the case. What's the case in our Mishnah over here? Terbet mitzvah, more than that, where you already did the Korban Musaf, and now afterwards you're shechting it. Because if you haven't done the Korban Musaf yet, even Rabbi Yisroel would see a Terbet mitzvah like we saw by the babies. So again, in our Mishnah, where you say that according to Rabbi Yisroel, you're chayav chatos, we don't consider your Terbet mitzvah. What's the case of our Mishnah? Where you've already done your Musaf Korbanos, and afterwards you're shechting it. Because if you have not done your Korban Musaf, even Rabbi Yisroel would agree your potter. Rabbi Yisroel would say your potter. No, even Rabbi Yisroel would say your potter. Why would he say your potter? Because still you've got the Korban Musaf ahead of you. You're still toyer. So the fact that Rabbi Yisroel says Yechav is because you've already done the Korban Musaf, and now you've got nothing left to do. So Rabbi Meir that says that you're potter is obviously about the same case, where you've already done your Korban Musaf. The Korban Musaf is finished and gone. If the Korban Musaf is finished and gone, so what you're doing now, you're shechting a sheep for Korban Musaf. And Afropicane says Rabbi Meir potter. Why? What's the logic of Amir? Because at the end of the day, you were busy with a Korban Musaf, so therefore you still consider Torah and Mitzvah. So it's Yochi Amir, I've got the Shachtin and the Mitzvah Beis, but Tiny Yochi even Oreb, it's the name of the place. Name of Amir. The next, Echad Namul Ev Shabbos on a Friday, baby, Echad Namul B'Shabbos, the Shochach Mul Shel Shabbos the Chayav. Everybody agrees that if you do a Friday baby on Shabbos, you're chayav. Because you had two children. One a Sunday baby, one a Shabbos baby. And you did the Sunday baby on Shabbos. Now, the Gemara understands at this stage like this. That what happened was that you first, let me just get this clear. Let's get this clear. This is the most tricky part of the daf. The Gemara understands over here that Rameir says, according to this case, in the first case, where you did the Erev Shabbos b'Shabbos, that you're chayav. Why are you chayav when you do the Friday baby on Shabbos? Everybody agrees that if you do the Friday baby on Shabbos, that you're chayav. That's what Rameir says. Let's read it again. Everybody agrees that you're chayav. Why? The answer is because since in the end of the, let's get it clear again. Sorry. So the answer is because what happened was, the reason is, the reason why in the Reisha you're chayav, what's the Gemara understands, what's the chiluk between the Reisha and the Sefer? Why in the Reisha? I mean, in the case where you did the Bismillah of the Friday baby on Shabbos, everybody agrees you're chayav. Why is everybody agree you're chayav? The Gemara understands that the reason is because first you did the Shabbos baby, and then you did the Friday baby. And since you first did the Shabbos baby, then the Friday baby, so therefore by the time you came on to the Friday baby, there was nothing left for you to do. And that's what Meir says Yechayev. Mashikin in the Sefer we're talking about, where you did first the Sunday baby, and then the Shabbos baby. And that is why in the Sefer Rabbi Yisroel says your potter. That means the Gemara understands at this stage that the difference between the Friday baby that you're always chayav chatos and the Sunday baby that you're potter is depends which one you did first. And that is why, let's Rashi explains about it's about 6-7 lines for them. You thought you both were doing the right thing. Since you've already done the Shabbos, love to have mitzvah. The Sefer Potter should the Torah Shabbos mocha. That means the reason why the man in the Reisha says you're chayav is because you went into the Shabbos baby first, and now you had nothing left to do. So the Gemara proves that according to Rabbi, when you've got nothing left to do, you're chayav chatos. So I'm going to go very, very briefly. Rabbi Shua in our Mishnah says that if you shechta shlomim l'shem tomid, what's the din Rabbi Shua says? If you shechta shlomim l'shem korban musaf on Shabbos, you're chayav chatos. The Gemara explained why you're chayav chatos. Because you've got not much to do. Asks the Gemara the question for bris milah. That bris milah we see that Rabbi Shua says you're potter. Answers the Gemara that here in our Mishnah we're talking about the situation you've already done your musaf and therefore you've got nothing left to do. There with what you haven't. The Gemara, but then Rameir continues and says that even in such a case you're potter. But the problem is the Rameir elsewhere says that by bris milah you're chayav in a case where you've already done what you need to do. So if Rabbi Shua and Rameir both argue each other in our Mishnah, it must be about the same case. And we explained that Rabbi Shua was talking about a case where you've already done what you have to do, and that's why Rabbi Shua says. If that's the case of maybe himself also, that's not pshat. The tisva can that be pshat in our Mishnah? That Mishnah there, that the reason that Rameir holds that you're chayav is because you did the Shabbos baby first. Ma'asam delay with mitzvah potter Rabbi Shua. If already by doing the Sunday baby on Shabbos, where we said before, if you do the Sunday baby on Shabbos, have you done any mitzvah at all? No. And after Rabbi Shua says, no, chayav chatos. The Kavod mitzvah, when you do the Friday baby on Shabbos, so everybody agrees you've done the mitzvah mechayev. So what's the small Rabbi Shua? The Gemara asks a kasha on Rabbi Shua. How can you say that the Friday baby on Shabbos you're chayav chatos, but the Sunday baby on Shabbos you're potter? It doesn't make any sense. The Friday baby on Shabbos you've done a mitzvah. You've done it the wrong day. You've done a mitzvah. The Sunday baby on Shabbos you've done the mitzvah at all. So make it chayav. Elamai omidu Rabbi Yana v'ishkun shkodam moshel Shabbos be'erev Shabbos. I explain it outside, and then we say it inside, like this. The difference in innovation and safety work is completely different. There were two babies in both cases. One case was you had a Friday and a Shabbos baby, and the next case you had a Shabbos and a Sunday baby. The Gemara explains like this. The first case that Rabbi Shua says you're chayav is we're talking about that on Friday afternoon, you got mixed up between the two babies. So you took the Friday baby and you said, I'll do bris milah on Shabbos, and the Shabbos baby, you did the bris milah on Friday. So then what happened? Then Rabbi Shua says Yechayev Chatos. Does anybody know why? Again, Friday afternoon, you mixed the two babies, and you did the Friday baby, you said you'll leave it for Shabbos, and the Shabbos baby you did on Friday, there Rabbi Shua says Yechayev Chatos. The reason is, because when Shabbos came in, you've got no mitzvahs left. Why? The Shabbos baby, you've got to done bris milah, so there's nothing left to do on Shabbos. The Friday baby, you can't do it on Shabbos. So when Shabbos came in, you had no mitzvahs left. Mashaki with the Shabbos on Sunday, where you mix them up, where you do the Sunday baby on Shabbos, the Shabbos baby on Sunday. When Shabbos comes in, you have a mitzvah. Therefore, the nafkemina is only when Shabbos comes in, do you still have a mitzvah? And therefore, comes out like this. In our Mishnah, Rabbi Shua says that you're chayav chatos. Why? Because you've already bought the musaf, and now you bring a korban nechatesa. That's not termed our mitzvah, so you're chayav. What? Because the mitzvah left. But by bris milah, we're talking about when you still have a mitzvah left, so therefore you're potter. Rameir says in our Mishnah that even in such a case you're potter. Why? Because when Shabbos came in, you knew that there are sheep that you need to do with shecht. Since you knew that, the whole of Shabbos morning before you go around to the musaf, you're thinking, I have to do shechting. So therefore, even though the musaf is already bought, but you're still toyer b'dvar mitzvah if you bring a sheep afterwards. Masha'inkin, in that case of bris milah that Rameir says that you're chayav, is because we're talking about when you did the Shabbos baby on Friday and the Friday baby on Shabbos. And in such a case, Rameir says that when Shabbos came in, there was nothing left for you to do.
Even though you didn't know.
Even though you didn't know.
Nice, you look at the facts. Was there
That's right. You look at when Shabbos came in, was there any mitzvah left to do? Since there was no mitzvah left to do, so therefore now you're doing something on Shabbos, therefore you're chayav chatos. So that's the insight. You did bris milah on the Shabbos one on Friday, top of Beis and Beis. The Shabbos nidchos. There's nothing left for Shabbos to be pushed away. That means this Shabbos is never going to be pushed away. Sefer nitza Shabbos nidchos said slowly. Now Mishnah, how nitza Shabbos nidchos says korban sibur. When Shabbos came in, there was a reason to push korban sibur. The Moyal, when he came into Shabbos, knows that there's other babies that need to do bris milah. This person wasn't asked to do any of the bris milahs. So this person wasn't told. So therefore, there's 3 levels if you want to take it. There's somebody who does a korban of shlomim for a musaf before the musaf has been bought. In such a case, Rabbi Lezer holds, let's go through the three cases. You take a shlomim and you shecht it for a musaf before the musaf is bought. According to Rabbi Lezer, what's the din? You have chatos. According to Rabbi Yisroel, you're pot of chatos. Why? You're terrible mitzvah because you think I need to bring the musaf. According to Rabbi, you're definitely pot. You also say pot. The next case, you bring a korban shlomim after the musaf has already been bought. According to Rabbi Lezer, what's the din? According to Rabbi Yisroel, according to Rabbi, you're pot. Why? Still a mitzvah because when Shabbos came in, you knew there was a mitzvah being korban musaf. The third case, you did bris milah to the baby, which you should have done on Shabbos on Friday, and the Friday baby you left for Shabbos, and then you do bris milah on Shabbos. What's the din? Even according to a meir, you have chatos. Because when Shabbos came in, there was nothing left to do. Okay. The shakla is vachashot the shum Pesach. If the boy from Pesach, less bechav chatos of shah poita. Man Tana, who's the Tana of our Mishnah? The Shonile that makes a difference between ruinishin and ruin. The more brings a price of exactly what says in our Mishnah. The Tanya. Whether the cow is whether it's not, that means whether it's male, female, big, child, cow, whether it is. The mayor holds you always a turn of mitzvah. If you take a cow on Erev Pesach, which is a Shabbos, and you shech the Shem Kol on Pesach, according to a mayor, you're okay. You're pot from chatos. Why pot chatos? Because you're turn b'dvar mitzvah. Why you turn b'dvar mitzvah? Because you're busy thinking, I need to shech the Kol on Pesach. What? The wrong animal. Or Rav Shimon, no. Everything is a chav. The machlokes is only by ruin and not by she'inin. So it comes out that if you shecht a cow on Erev Pesach as a korban Pesach, according to Rameh, you're potter because you're termed as a mitzvah. According to Rav Lezer, you're chav. Now, the Gemara is going to ask a lot of questions according to Rameh. That means, what about a Baal Mum? What about Chulin? What about the cow? We talked about cow. What about all these cases? Again, Rameh holds Torah b'dvar mitzvah. Oh, no. There was one case by bris milah that you all had according to Rameh. When was the case? There was no mitzvah left. Oh, but why is it different from a cow? A cow we shechted the shim. But it's not kosher from Pesach.
But the carbon you bring as a carbon ready.
For shlomim.
Yeah, but yeah.
So the Gemara now says logic. When we do consider Torah David, so we don't consider Torah David. So let's go inside. Let's get go to even if you take a calf of the shlomim, sheshach the shema Pesach. Even if you take a calf, you shecht it, you're potter. The Rameh agrees if the animal's got a mum, it's missing an eye. Then Rameh agrees not to turn bad mitzvah. He's not thinking about mum. When will I bring this as a korban? Why? Because he knows that everything has a korban. But this cow, which is a shlomim, told bait. He knows he has to bring it as a korban. So what happens like this? You've got a cow, which is a shlomim. You've got a sheep, which is a Pesach. The Pesach, you know, is derech Shabbos. The shlomim, you know that you have to bring it as a korban. So what happens is you're so busy thinking I have to bring korbanos for Hashem, and you know that certain korbanos are derech Shabbos, so therefore it's called Torah b'dvar mitzvah. What would be if you take a korban with something which is completely chulin, right? Something which is not even a big korban, and you shecht it over Pesach. Even chulin. Amir agrees Baal that you're not part of your chayv. Says Baal Mumin nichlefi. A Baal Mum, you won't make a mistake between a Baal Mum and a korban Pesach. Hani nichlefi. When you see a sheep which is unblemished, and you don't know, you think to yourself, look, all the sheep which are unblemished, which are korban Pesach, you have to bring to Beis Hamikdash. So this sheep is unblemished, so it's easy to make a mistake. The Gemara, is the reason because of Amir, because of swapping. And there you're not going to swap. Nobody's going to swap a cow with a sheep. The reason is because you're busy, you're preoccupied. If you're preoccupied or if you're likely to make a mistake, in both cases you're potter. Why? Because you're Torah b'dvar mitzvah. But if you're not preoccupied and you're not going to make a mistake, then you're not Torah b'dvar mitzvah. So according to Amir, if you take a chulin and you shecht the Shem Pesach, what's the din? You're potter because it's michlaf. If you shecht a shlomim cow, it is Tovit. If you shecht a Baal Mum, then you're Chayav. So there's only two cases according to Rameh. It's a typical Dilshu kind of question. When is there going to be, according to Rameh, that you're Tovit with Bar Mitzvah, and nevertheless, you have to bring a Chatos? When's the two cases? Bris when what?
It's on Sunday.
No, Friday. A Friday where you did the Shabbos on Friday and you got none left. Or Baal Mum. Or Baal Mum. Okay.
Balmum doesn't have both criteria.
It's it can't be swapped because you know the fact that you can't think, and it's not Torah because you're never going to bring it. So therefore, Baal Mum is not considered Torah b'dvar mitzvah.
You're never going to bring it. You're going to bring still Torah with other korbanos on that day.
Yes, but that Rameh holds is not enough. If you look through all the cases, he never said that. By Egel, you're busy with the Egel itself. No, with the Egel, you're busy with the cow itself. It is a cow of Shlomim. Okay. Says the word like this. Yosef, Rab Zeir, Rab Shubah, Yitzchak, Hilad, Rab Shubah, Yitzchak. Now, till now, we've always been talking about doing a malach on Shabbos, but really, you can be chayav chatos for many things. Chas Shabbos, a person has relations with his wife, which is a nida, having a chatos, right? What happens if a person eats a noisa or chaylev? Then he has to bring a chatos. Now, what happens if it gets mixed up? So, if he's doing a mitzvah, says Tod b'dvar mitzvah, what's the din? It should be potter. We pass by the rest of the Bishah, who do pass like? Bless of Shahudu passing like. We always pass like Yisroel gets up a lesson. Why? Two reasons. Shia. Probably never spoken of that. What's up lesson of Yisroel? Why do we always pass like Yisroel gets up a lesson? Two reasons. Rabbi was Talmud of Shammai, so we never do hold when he was Talmud of Shammai, and also they once put him in the Chayim because he was metayah certain oven. Okay. So we pass like Yisroel that Torah b'dvar mitzvah is potter. Torah b'dvar mitzvah is potter. So therefore, if a person, for example, eats a korban and really it's noisa, what would you do to him? Let's say a person's got a korban, it's leftovers, it's chav kos. He did it by mistake, thinking it's a korban. Would you tell him to bring a chatos? Is it a turbid mitzvah? Okay, let's look more inside. Yosef Rav Yisrael, Rav Shimon, Rav Yitzchak, Akilah, Rav Shimon, Rav Yitzchak by the porch of Yisroel by Yisrael. Yosef will come. Rav Shimon Lakish. There's chalav lo shvud shanoisa. The shvud should sleep. If you mix up a shvud, it's like a pipe, it's like a kebab. You know what a kebab is? It's like a spit. Oh, a spit, that's a better word. A spit of noisa with a spit of a korban. Why you chayav? Why you chayav? So the machlokes is in the shonim. Either because even Rabbi Shua holds that you only told about mitzvah if what you've done is episa mitzvah. Hey, you've done no mitzvah at all. You've just eaten noisa. Others hold because it's so obvious, it's such a clear thing that you should have been able to know the difference. Okay, so if you eat a noisa and you think that it's a korban, you're chayav chatos. Rabbi Yechon Omar ishte nida bar chayav. Person has relations with his wife thinking that she's toy and she's tummy, then it's chayav chatos. Yevimte nida bar. If let's say it does yibum with a yavama, and there's a big mitzvah as well, then potter. It could what? Yeah, which is a nida, and she's a yavama. Then one is potter. Ikadami. Some say kol shekei b'hita mechayel. The Rabbi Yochanan agreed with Rish Lakish, and he wasn't coming to argue with Rish Lakish. He was coming to add to Rish Lakish. You said that by noisei chayav, kavachomer say chayav. Delay also mitzvah. There's nothing mitzvah at all. It's not by he potter that by the shvut he holds its potter. My tana. The person's wife's a nidda. Why is he doing prayer? Why doesn't he ask her? So we've got machlokes. Did Rabbi Yochanan argue with Rish Lakish regarding a shvut, a spit of noisa with his chayav potter? Now, the Gemara now examines what is the difference between a yavama and ishtoy. Again. Person does bila with his wife and nida is chayav chatos. If he does it with the yavama, is potter. What's the difference? Says the Gemara. Both of them are mitzvah. Oh, ma'ishlo yavim to covered mitzvah, do mitzvah yibba b'ishlam you covered mitzvah. As well b'ishtim u'beres is the mitzvah povu. For the Gemara, weka simchas oina. There's a mitzvah of oina, which is also a mitzvah. As well shlo b'shas oinosa, not the time of oina. That means there's a fixed amount of time. It's interesting because we've got quite a few tshuvas, the amount of time, the fixed amount of time you have to do oina. Here we're talking about where a person's doing it, shlo b'shas oina, therefore there's no mitzvah. For the Gemara, even so there's a mitzvah. If a person sees that his wife desires it, it becomes a mitzvah. Once it becomes a mitzvah, so that is chayav, so therefore you should be told with mitzvah. Since it's samuch levesto, so therefore he was mechuyev to be poivash. Says the Gemara, Yochaf Yivimto Nami. So Yivama is what? And says the Gemara, Yivimto Bozes Minoi is embarrassed. Ishtere Bozes Minoi. Okay. So it comes out like this. By Yivama, he's embarrassed to ask us, therefore he's a termit mitzvah. We don't expect him to do any better. By Ishtere Nidda, we expect him to ask. Since it didn't ask, he's not considered termit mitzvah, and therefore he's chayav chatos. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda was mechadash over here, that termit mitzvah, even by Yivimto is considered Torah mitzvah. The Gemara is going to try to bring loads of people that discuss Torah mitzvah and try and find which one does Rabbi Yochanan fit in. Maybe our Mishnah we're going to see. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Keman. Who does Rabbi Yochanan? Where did he get this idea that it's Torah mitzvah? Maybe I should give away the answer before we start. The big problem is that normally Torah mitzvah is when somebody's in a rush. Pesach, in a rush. Here, Yevimtoi, there's no rush whatsoever. Why can't you wait a few days and find out? So therefore, the Gemara asks in Rabbi Yochanan that we've never seen a Torah b'dvar mitzvah when you've got the time to verify it. It says Rabbi Yochanan, come on, in a mekav the Tzad Yisroel. Yom Tov Shul Chag Choles b'Shabbos. First day is Sukkot, which is a Shabbos. The Shochva says Halulav Rishus Rabim Pot. And you take a lulav into Rishus Rabim. Imagine first day is Sukkot. You know the famous story of the B'titch of Rabbi. What happened was the first day is Sukkot. They found that he had his hands all covered in blood. He had his lulav nestig in his hand, and there was glass all over the floor. And they asked him what happened. So he said, what happened was that there's a mitzvah to shake lulav. You can't shake it before Alois. That's the earliest allowed to. So what happened was I got up early. I spent the whole night being spoiled, ready to do the mitzvah. And I had the lulav nestig in the glass cupboard. Glass, in the, what's called it, a glass front. What's the cabinet. And what happened was it came to the time of the mitzvah. I was so excited the mitzvah, I forgot there was a glass cupboard. I put my hands through, and I took the little of a and I cut myself. The person's very, very excited. So the first day Sukkot is a Shabbos. He's been waiting for days. He got himself a nice Esser because he said the special tefillah of the Ben Ish Chai. And finally, and it's first day Sukkot is a Shabbos, and he goes in the street with the lulav of Esser. Would you give him chatos? Says Rabbi Yossi, no, I'm not giving him chatos. Why not? It's a Torah b'dvar mitzvah. So maybe Rabbi Yochanan learned the same halacha by Yevimta, who's a niddah, the same thing. Says, well, no, you can't compare. Why? Let's see. You've only got a limited amount of time. You've only got 1 day of Sukkot to take your lulav ad esrog. Now, shake it by Yevimta, you can wait another few days. Maybe it's Rabbi Yisroel of our Mishnah that if you shech the korban l'shem Pesach, you're potter. Says, well, do also namis manu bowl. It's erev Pesach. You have to quickly shech as much as you can. You can't compare it to Yevimta. Rabbi Yisroel of the babies of Bismillah, where we learned that if somebody does Bismillah to a baby and it's the wrong day, Rabbi Yisroel in certain cases says you're potter. There again you're in a rush because you have to do on the 8th day. But Rabbi Yisroel the Truma, the Tanan, or Yochel the Truma, a person is eating Truma. We knew that Shu ben Gusha ben Chalutza, Rabbi Yisroel kem Nechim Rabbi Yisroel Poita. Person is let's say Kohen Ma'az a Gusha Chalutza. Then the child is Chayev kem Nechimash. Because why? What's the child? The status of a child who's a Kohen, or the son of Kohen who marries a Gusha? What's the status of a child? It's a Cholol. What's the din of a Cholol? It's like a normal Yisroel. It's kimat like a completely normal Yisroel. Donald Kaplan once told me this himself. That he was walking the boy taps him on his shoulder. He asks you a question. Yeah. My father's a Kohen, he married a Gusha, what's my status? So he was all embarrassed and tense and thing, and eventually he says, well, if it's all true and it was Kiddush, then your status is like you're a kosher Yisroel, you're absolutely fine, be like a Yisroel. So the boy smiled, great, fine, I'm a Yisroel. He didn't seem to be in the least bit bothered. And he said to me, like, he was missing the days when somebody taps you on the shoulder and asks you, what do you do if you miss Yalav Yavo or something more, tame than asking these kinds of questions. But amazing, that is the thing. So what happens if a person... The Chalol is not allowed to marry a Kohen. A Cholol is allowed to marry a Bas Kohen. It's like a normal Yisroel. We will see one exception. So the point is that a Cholol that's eating Truma, so we go machlekes with his Chayav Kem V'Chimish. I'm sure it says a potter. Why does it say a potter? Is a Torah b'dvar mitzvah. Why is it Torah b'dvar mitzvah? Because it's a mitzvah to eat Truma. So he's busy doing a mitzvah. Since he's doing a mitzvah, it's a Torah b'dvar mitzvah. Says the Gemara. Maybe the reason why there is not because it's Torah b'dvar mitzvah. Maybe it's a different reason. Maybe we're talking about where he's eating Truma of Chometz on Erev Pesach, where he's got no time. Again, person eats Truma is not in a rush. And if you say that it's Torah b'dvar mitzvah and it's potter, That would be a proof to Rabbi Yochanan by him to nidda, where it's not a rush. It's also turbid by mitzvah. Says, but you can't compare. Maybe by Truma, we're talking about Pesach is eating chometz Truma, where it's in a rush. Inami, shani Truma de kavoida. There's a special pasuk Baruch Hashem which Rabbi said, which tells us that even a cholol who's a normal Yisroel, if he did the avodah by mistake, then the avodah is kosher. So therefore, maybe when a kohen who's a cholol eats truma, the reason why he doesn't have to give kev v'chumash is not because of the fact that he's a toibet v'amitzvah, because there's a special pasuk. Again, let's decide. Inami shadi to the avodah. The Torah says it's okay. It's not. Yomi do makriv. Person being a korban, no dash when gosh when chalutza. Kol hakabod is kulon shekim v'kav mizbeach psulin. All the kabodos are possible. Rabbi Shua machshi. V'aminon my tabedu Rabbi Shua. Dichsi Baruch Hashem chaylo pal yadav tirtza. So we see Baruch Hashem chaylo. The word chaylo because the word chaloloi. Upal yadav tirtza. That Hashem accepts even the chalolim. So there's two reasons. In fact, we have no makor for Rabbi Yochanan. Every place that we found the right to Rabbi Yochanan, we said that maybe a bowl. Oh, what about Truma? Truma, either we talk about Pesach where it's bowl, or it's about Cholol, and the Cholol is considered is not the avodah of a Cholol is not but the ever okay. It says, well, Truma echeka avodah. When the world did we ever see that eating Truma is considered an avodah based on Midosh? It says, well, the Tanya, Ma'aseh Rab Tarfon was a kohen. She never came to shul one day. The Shachris next morning. Imagine it doesn't come to the Daf Shir. Next morning, why didn't you come to the share yesterday? I was doing avodah. Said to him, whatever you're saying it doesn't make any sense. When the world is the avodah, there's no Beis the time of Tafel, there's no Beis. If you look at the charts, you work out the date. Tafel lived after the Churban. If he lived after the Churban, Tafel lived after the Churban, so now how can he possibly do avodah? Omaloi have a yoimer top vine gimel on dalef avodas matono etnes kuna vazoa koev yumos. As when the possible in Korach, where he talks about giving the kohanim truma, it says, "I've given you the truma to be eaten," and the Apostle uses the lashon of avodah. It's a gift. It's a service of a gift I've given your kohana. And no kohen is allowed to eat it. That means the matanos that I've given you are all truma presents. So therefore, we see that the Torah considers eating truma like an avodah. And halacha is that cholol does avodah, but you have this discussion, and that's why it's not chad kevachivish. So we have no makor for Rabbi Yochanan that a person who's tobit v'amitzvah, when there's no time limit, is still considered tobit v'amitzvah in this part. Okay, we're up to Shochtish the Oichlov. And tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem, we're finishing the Perek. Anybody wishes can bring. Anybody who wants can bring another thing. Right. Very good. That the kuda, the word